Bianca.
How are you?
Thanks to you. Oh, it's
I'm
so
fine,
good to
thanks.
see you.
Shame you've been running around.
Yes, I
Okay,
definitely have, as usual. But thank you so much
okay.
for agreeing to do this. I really appreciate it. I know you have also got a lot on your plate. Everybody has, I know.
Yeah, but it's good to be busy.
Yes, it is good to be busy.
I'm Shirlyn Gray and this is Brighter.
This is Bianca Anthon, and I've known her for a couple of years. We are going to try and get into as much as possible, and but not take up too much of her time because she's a very busy lady. And she's an amazing mother. She's an amazing wife, and she was my HR manager for many years. So, Bianca, will you just introduce yourself to our viewers and just tell them a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and yeah.
Okay. So I'm Bianca Anthon, used to be Bianca Rowan, was born Bianca Brawns. And I'm a Durban girl, grown up in Durban, born in Durban. And yeah, a mother to two biological children and two boys that have come with my new husband in terms of our blended family. In HR, but have always gone into HR and ministry,
Yes, yes.
corporate and then business. So quite a lot of transitioning. And I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's enough about me.
Enough about you. The whole topic is about you. But yeah,
Yeah,
you actually yeah, you were my HR manager, but also a strong woman of faith, which is what I've always loved about you, is that you've never let go of it. Regardless of any challenges you've had, you've always been a woman of faith, which is really amazing. It's amazing to hold on to that
sure.
in this day and age when it's so easy to let go of it. Lots of ladies out there going through challenges, and sometimes they feel like there's no one to turn to. And specifically because you are a wife and you are a mother and you are a working wife and mother, and those are elements that are all very difficult to juggle, but with the right kind of tool set and also with the right kind of mindset, you are able to do it in the most productive way. So can you just tell us a little bit about your life in terms of that, in terms of being a mother, a wife, and also a businesswoman? Because I know that you don't just do HR, and you also do motivational speaking. You also do ministry. So you are like a jack of all trades, so to speak. So would you mind just sharing a little bit about that and what that's meant to you, but also how you are able to do it productively?
Yeah, so I think I've been blessed that I've grown up in a very good family.
Yes.
My dad was a doctor, my mom was a qualified nurse, head of maternity. So the model that I had from young is that, you can do anything, study further, because at the time when I grew up, there was still apartheid and there was not many opportunities for people of color.
Yes.
Thank goodness I also went to a multiracial private Catholic school from the time I was 6 years old
Mm.
until matric. That was an excellent foundation, and not everybody has it. And I'm very grateful that I had that foundation.
Yes.
However, things aren't always perfect. My mom had things that she was dealing with from her childhood, and so was my dad. They were two people trying to heal and raise this family in the best way that they could, but
Yes.
didn't have all the answers, hadn't arrived there yet. So
Mm.
there was a lot of emotional wounds that I had, and just how the enemy lied to me about my own sense of value, and
Yes.
it led me to making wrong choices. when I started acting out as a teenager and rebelling, they had no idea what was going on. But
Yes.
again, the enemy was using all of that to lie to me about my value and to try and derail my purpose. And I say this vulnerably because a lot of us don't talk about these things. We don't talk about, some of the pain from our childhood. If we don't share it, we can't share the testimony. And I got reactive depression, and I called out to God in my bedroom, and I just said, "Do you actually exist? Do you actually exist?" And this warmth came over me, and I said, "I am so sorry for how I've been living my life."
Yeah.
And it was such a personal experience, and it was one that was unusual for me to have because I'd grown up in the Catholic faith, and we hadn't really been taught about that. We've been taught about, people seeing Mary at Medjugorje, but
Yes,
we
yes.
hadn't really being taught about the Holy Spirit. And so that was quite a profound experience in my bedroom, and I was never the same again.
Yeah.
I read the Bible, and it didn't look like thee, thou, thou. It looked like proper words of comfort to me. And God just started sending people into my life, especially women, older women, who just would be drawn to me and just would mentor me. So into my life, give me materials, pray for me. I was taught how to read the Bible, how to pray by people at work, which was so unusual. But the other thing that happened to me when I made that decision to follow God and accept Jesus is that I had been applying for so many jobs, Shirlyn. I had done 50 applications. And with my credentials, I'd also studied industrial psychology. I was just not successful.
Yes,
But the
yes.
day that I came into alignment with my God-given purpose was the day that I never applied for a job again. So I was approached by one of my university lecturers, recommended me for a role. I went to work for a very well-known industrial psychologist, and we would do all the graduate recruitment for big companies like Sapref and Unilever.
Yes.
It was an awesome apprenticeship. And then she got headhunted by a big mining company, so she closed her consultancy. She retrenched us, but within a week, I had a job at a big mining company myself, at a local mining company.
Wow.
Earning double my salary,
Mm.
And that has just been the journey of purpose and provision and protection that I have experienced with God, even though I have gone through significant trials, because He never ever said that we wouldn't, but He did say that He would never, ever leave us nor forsake us. And so I went through a retrenchment. I was bewildered. I hated it. I was so emotional. And then a week later, I just get a job and I get told to start in a week.
Yeah.
And that's not everybody's story, but that was my story at the time. And I also meet a wonderful man he was a bit rough around the edges when I first met him, but I married my first husband, Jose. And Jose had an amazing testimony of how God delivered him from being a crime syndicate leader, and how God had appeared to him and really just transformed his life.
Yeah.
And we got married, and it was almost like a redemption of my wild youth, because it was just such a solid, secure, faithful marriage. It was such a redemption story. And I saw it as such, and I appreciated it. But I think I was also sent into his life to help him become who he was supposed to be, because it wasn't always easy. I really learned that I can go to God and I can pray, and He will give me the strategy. I remember reading Stormy Martian's book, The Power of a Praying Wife. And this little man at work that used to come and fix the lights just comes and hands it to me, and he says, "Oh, my wife and I are praying for you, and we're going to give you this book, and it's The Power of a Praying Wife." So I read the book, and Stormy Martian in the book wanted to divorce her husband. And there were so many things that he needed to change. And in the book, she said God spoke to her and said, "No, Stormy, you need to change."
Yeah.
So I'm reading this and I'm thinking, I don't need to change. There's nothing wrong with me. The problem's with him. And I just felt that conviction from God, and I said, "Okay, God, please, can I become the woman I need to be for Jose to become the man that you need him to be. And the first thing God said to me was, Bianca, be quiet. Stop fighting back. Because my defense mechanism was my mouth. So if Jose was going to take me on, I was going to brutalize him with my mouth and insults and arguing back. And God said to me, Bianca, you are tearing your house down with your mouth. Be quiet. And for 3 years, Shirlyn, I did not argue and fight back. Jose would sometimes act like a chop, he would, and I would just go and pray. I would go and pray, and then he would feel the conviction. Like he would either see his friend treating his wife badly, or he would have a dream or something, but he would feel such deep conviction. And he would apologize to me, and he started changing. With me withdrawing and not being on the attack all the time, he actually started changing. It was almost like his defense mechanism came down and he started changing. And yeah, and the journey of faith in our marriage was incredible. He supported me in my career. He supported me when I left corporate to go and work for the church, very sacrificially in terms of an income. But eventually, Jose went into full-time ministry. And that was just the most powerful story. And he found such fulfillment and purpose in it, that on his 50th birthday, when everybody wanted to send him tributes, before they could even send it, he asked everybody to please send me tributes, because he would never be who he was if it wasn't for me.
That's incredible.
And so I got all these tributes from people. And I didn't know that Jose would pass away just after his 51st birthday, a year later. But I have no regrets. And it's lovely to have a life where you don't have a regret. And that's what happens when you follow God. He really gives you beauty for ashes. He redeems the time. And as you know, my story didn't end there with that devastating occurrence. I found love again, and I'm reborn to the most incredible man, and I'm very, very blessed.
That's amazing, Bianca. What's actually amazing is how you said that you first started with like an introspection, when you were facing challenges in your marriage, because yes, not all women's stories are the same, where eventually both parties come together and work together. Not every man's story is the same like that, but you have to start with introspection first. You can't start with blaming, and that's unfortunately what we usually all do as human beings. We look at the person, the opponent, as the one with the fault. So it's good that you say you started with looking at yourself first, like going to God and with all your problems as they were, and he said look at you first, and I think only from that point, when you look at yourself first, are you able to really look at the other person clearly, to be able to work together. So that's quite amazing. And I have to say, personally, knowing you and Jose, you guys were such an amazing couple, and I'm glad that you guys were able to work your stuff out. And unfortunately, he did pass away, but look at how God has blessed you guys afterward. After he passed away, look at how God has blessed you and your kids with finding such an amazing new partner. And you, the main reason why I wanted to speak to you, you're gonna laugh at this, is because from my perspective, I see you as such a like a powerhouse, right? I see you like a powerhouse because you firstly, I would like to say that I did not know that you went through that with somebody breaking your arm and stuff. That's like it's amazing that you've come out with such a forgiving nature after what's something like that happening, but when I see you, I see somebody who has, you that woman in business who's always putting yourself out there to try and do what you want to do in life. You're that kind of woman, that the way I see you is that you're the kind of woman that's if you want something, if something's your passion, you go after it. So basically, whether it's income generating or whether it's something in terms of ministry, because I remember you doing talks and doing like motivational speeches at certain places. And that's very inspiring to me, because, you know, when you're going through challenges yourself, you can get to a point where you just feel like, what's the point in everything? I can't get a job.
Yeah.
I've got all this ability, I've got all this intellect, but I can't seem to just cut through the noise of society and get what I need to get in order to progress. And you're that kind of woman that, despite going through stuff like that, you always see Bianca up there doing something different if she needs to do something different. So that's what I find very inspiring. Like you will literally, like you're an HR manager, but you're also a motivational speaker. You do what needs to be done in order to move forward, and that's whenever I see women like that, it inspires me to actually try and not give up and keep going. You know. So, would you mind? I know you've said quite a chunk, but would you mind just telling us a little bit about your career, like in the different facets, you know, HR as well as motivational speaking? The reason I'm saying motivational speaking, because often when you would do these talks with us before, it was, even though it was supposed to be HR, it often went into some kind of a motivation. So if you can just share a little bit with us regarding that.
Thanks, Shirlyn. Thank you for your kind words. It's you know, it's never us, it's always God.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, when I didn't know God, I was bubbly and friendly, but I didn't have a purpose.
Yeah.
But I think just in terms of my career, I studied architecture in my first year at varsity because I wanted to build houses for the poor. And I realized, you know, no, I wasn't enjoying this. I did well because I'm that type of person. I'm competitive and I like to beat everybody else. I'm like that. But I wasn't enjoying it. So I had the tough conversation with my dad. He had just spent so much money on that first year. And I just said, Dad, please, I have to change. And I studied industrial psychology. So my career started working for an industrial psychologist and then moving into the mining industry, implementing transformation and employment equity, but also doing general HR. And then I was headhunted by ABI, which was an incredible learning opportunity. SAB is truly one of the best companies to work for. They were really amazing. And then from SAB, I was very ambitious. Like at SAB, I got 3 promotions in 3 years.
Wow.
But I felt God tell me, this is idolatry. This has become idolatry, your career. And I did a fast, a 21-day fast, and God called me to go out on my own. But he also kind of showed me what my ambition had made me become and how it had made me betray my values. And I had to repent and actually go and ask some people for forgiveness because I had betrayed my values, you know. So when I left like, you know, like really just released by God. And I started my own business, but then the church approached me and asked me to come on board. And God had really given me a dream the night before I was called by the, you know, the church. And so I knew that that was what God was asking me to do. And it was a huge salary sacrifice for me. But I had to learn how to receive from people. I realized how proud I was, you know, and I learned how to be grateful for like the most simple things. Like before, if it was my birthday, people would say, what do you want for your birthday? And I'd like think, oh gosh, I've got everything. Like maybe they should just give a donation to charity or something. And this time people are asking me what I need for my birthday, like the most basic essentials, you know. And it was very humbling, but it was also a journey of and my motivational intent was tested many times, you know, like what is my motivation for being in ministry? Is there something of looking for a validation, or am I here in service? And that really, I just wanted to be in service, but I wasn't always perfect. And I did hurt people at times, but I grew. I grew.
Who doesn't though? Who doesn't hurt people around them? It happens. It's life, you know.
But it's also interesting because when I was in church, you know, I was in the HR department, And I saw people that I knew from the beginning of my Christian journey were incredibly committed Christians and
Yes.
just so wonderful and inspiring. And I saw them like doing the most like heinous sort of sins and being exposed. And I was like, what happened? God, how did they get to this stage?
Yeah.
And God said to me, offense and unforgiveness. He said to me, Bianca, daily in the ministry, you will experience offense and you will have the choice to be unforgiving and bitter.
Yeah.
And then it's amazing because I served in the makeup ministry in the productions, which is in the background. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's like a whole lot of faces. But God told me to go to Cape Town. You're leaving the church now, you're going to go to Cape Town. And off I went to Cape Town without a job. And within a week of landing there, I got a job as an HR director for a national makeup company, an international makeup company. I just thought, gosh, look at that little seed of doing people's makeup in the productions and look what's happened. And I was in Cape Town and I had a baby, a little girl that I'd been waiting for 11 years to have. And I also met, Pastor Neville and Wendy, who had an incredible impact in my life.
Yes.
And it was actually through their ministry that my late husband, Jose, and I were ordained as pastors.
Wow.
And I think the way that they did ministry filled me with so much love.
Yes.
That when God called me back to Durban, I just had so much love. That my motivational kind of structure was just loving people.
Yes.
And that was quite a lovely experience. But again, I came back to Durban and Shirlyn, the one thing is I have always been obedient to God. I have always been obedient, and he keeps me out of a comfort zone, because just when I think, okay, this is where I must settle, no, then he'll say, time to go. But he always provides and opens up a door for me. So I left the church and went into my own business. But I left on the Tuesday, and by the Friday, I had a contract with Bidvest, triple what I was earning at the church. So that's how he just provides for me each step of the way. And I've been consulting in my business ever since, in senior HR roles, but it's always purposeful. It's never about, oh, you are the chief HR officer. No, it's, what is my purpose? Every single life here represents a family. The managers that I'm working with, the CEO that I'm working with, what is my purpose? And it's always a God-given purpose. Yes, there's a technical skill, there's the business imperative, and I've got a very strong sort of business mindset, because businesses exist to make money.
Yes.
But I also have a very strong view on the divinity and the value of people. And like, just in terms of the, just the value of people, of God and God. So, I have a strong view of God and of the value of people. And yes, and just in terms of you saying I bounce back, being a victim is the most disempowering thing. I used to be a huge victim. In the early part of my career, I could feel so sorry for myself, like you can't even believe. And God checked me on it, and he said to me, Bianca, I did not create you to be a victim. You're a victorious overcomer. So every time I feel like a victim, I always say, what could I have done differently? What do I need to own? What do I need to take ownership of? And then, to prevent myself from being a victim, I do also notice red flags, patterns, and I deal with them head on, before it escalates, or I proactively do something to protect myself from a massive fallout, so that I'm not a victim, because I think that that's all proactive.
That's a very good point that you brought up, the fact that also is a part of introspection, right? Like, you now learned the red flags. Like, what do you usually, the kind of situations that you usually get yourself into because of patterns, and then so the repetitive things. So that there are things you can do, knowing your past, knowing what's repetition in your life. What do you look out for to avoid circumstances from reoccurring, that you would prefer not to reoccur? So, and also the always coming back to God. I mean, because without
Yeah.
that, like, right, what point is there really? Because life is so difficult all on its own. So the constant coming back to God, like, and the forgiveness. When you were saying that part about the forgiveness and the offense, like, it's so easy to stay in that situation of offense. And when you stay in that situation of offense, then you literally are like, it's like putting bricks on top of yourself. So
Yeah. But it's real hurts.
yeah,
And some of them are deep hurts.
yeah,
But I think when you're saying, allowing God in, it's allowing, he wants to go deeper and he wants to heal the deep parts of us. And it's painful because those parts are exposed through trials and through
yeah,
our reactive behavior in places. But allowing the Holy Spirit to do the deep work
yeah,
is just the sanctification process that we walk through in this life. And even the forgiveness, Shirlyn, there's been some things like when I had to forgive the young man who sexually abused me, I said, God, how do I forgive this? And he just said, choose to forgive. And let me take the negative emotions away.
yeah.
And that has been and I did. And I subsequently found out that that young man was also the victim of sexual abuse.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah, so God sees the big picture with people. He
Yeah.
sees the big picture. And that's why he says, vengeance is mine, I will repay. Jose passed away from hospital negligence. So,
Oh no.
yeah, that's what he passed away from. And I had to forgive the hospital that had been negligent. But it's so interesting because my dad passed away last year. But in the final days of my dad's life, he was taken to that hospital and experienced the most kindest angels taking
Yeah,
care of him. It was
yeah,
such a redemption story. Say that my posture has always been to allow him to work and to
yeah,
surrender to him, even when it's really painful, because I'm not always brave. It's, the passing of Jose, my dad's diagnosis, some of the things I've experienced in the church and in corporate have knocked me.
yeah,
But I've always said to my children, we are not victims.
yeah,
We are not victims in this life. This is the hand life has dealt us, but God will give us beauty for ashes.
yeah.
The strategy, Shirlyn, that I learned when I worked at SAB, that was incredible. SAB achieved amazing things, and yet they were a brewer. Okay.
Yeah.
They went from being a South African company to being like one of the biggest global brewers.
Wow.
And they had this process of goal setting and visioning that they used to do. And I felt so convicted as a Christian when I worked there because I thought, gosh, I know that the Bible is so big on this. Like in Habakkuk 2, verses 2-4, write the vision down and make it plain. And he who reads it will run with it. Well, who reads it? God reads it. The angels read it. I
Sure.
read it, And then when Jesus fought the enemy in the desert, he said, it is written. So I knew the strength of a written vision from the Bible, but I wasn't applying it to my own life. So while I was at SAB, I was a district HR manager, and I wrote a vision that I would like to be a regional HR manager. I also wrote a vision that I would like my husband, who was Jose at the time, to go into full-time ministry. And he was so far off from that. Shirlyn, within 6 weeks, I was appointed as a regional training manager. I was
Wow.
unqualified. SAB spent a fortune qualifying me for that role. And look at Jose that went into full-time ministry about 10 years later. So when Jose passed away, and I was really bereft, and I had my business was affected by COVID, and then I just didn't have the energy to hunt for business. And so thank goodness God gave me a lovely contract where I was just coaching these managers every month. But I just said, God, this is so hard financially and emotionally, and this is so hard. And he said, Bianca, write the vision down. And I was like, I'm grieving. I'm at my lowest point. How do I even perceive a possibility for the future? And God said, Bianca, write the vision down. And Shirlyn, I did a half-day fast, and I wrote a vision down of where I'm going to be in 10 years' time. The next day, I met somebody from the company where I was appointed chief HR officer. I sent my CV on the Sunday, got called for an interview on the Wednesday, went for psychometrics on the Friday, got made an offer the next week. It wasn't even advertised, that job.
Wow.
There is something powerful, even when you're feeling like you have nothing left in you, to write a vision of faith.
Yeah.
Of where you're going to be in 10 years' time, your age in 10 years' time. What is your health going to look like, spiritual, mentally, physically? What is your children, your family life going to look like? Are you going to be married? What is it going to look like? What are you believing for your child? What is your
Yes.
wealth portfolio, your career? What is your impact going to be on the community? Write that vision down and write it down, because I promise you, it's such a spiritual discipline.
Mm.
And then get some pictures off the internet and put a collage together and print it out and put it up where you can look at it every day in your house. Mine
Yeah.
is opposite my bed. As I wake up from my bed, there is my vision in picture form. But the written vision is in my journal. It is documented.
Yeah.
It is documented. It is a powerful spiritual discipline. And yeah, I think, why do I inspire? Because I care. I'm just one person telling somebody else where to find some food because I was hungry and this is what
Yes.
happened. And yeah, I think that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from any other reason, but to just
Yeah.
see everybody okay. To see
Yeah.
everybody okay.
That's a very it's a very inspiring story. And Bianca, I appreciate that you took this time to speak with me today, because I know you've got, like I said, you've got so much on your plate. And if I think if women can listen to things like this and understand that so many of us around us are going through challenges, and just because we don't know about it in another person's life doesn't mean it's not happening, but there is always a future. If you just stick around long enough, there is always a future. And that's what I wanted this podcast to be about. I wanted it for ladies to listen and know, okay, I thought that I was the only one, or I felt like I was the only one, but look at that person. And a lot of the time, we look at people's profiles on social media and we think, wow, look at that person, their life is amazing. And it takes you a few minutes to sit with them and just realize how much they have gone through. There's been so many women actually that have actually reached out to say, can you talk? And they'll be talking to me, but they'll say, you know what, this is actually what's going on in my life, and it doesn't look like that on social media. So sometimes we need to be aware that what we see is not always what's happening, but who we choose to be, and believing in ourselves enough to stick around on this earth gives us the time to see that there is a future and there is a brighter, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you for agreeing to this. I really appreciate it. And I wish we could have had longer. I always say this to all my guests, because the ladies I speak to are just really inspirations to me. They are all women that I feel have incredible stories to share, because women are like superheroes. We juggle everything at once, and we do it in a way that nobody else can tell what you're going through, So thank you again. And I really do hope to chat to you soon. Before we go, do you have a few lines of just advice for any woman out there who might have gone through any of the challenges you've gone through, like say, have been through abuse in some way, have lost spouses? Do you have any advice of how they can move forward and do it in a healthy way?
The first thing is, what is your spiritual life like?
Yeah.
And I can share with you that my journey of faith in Jesus Christ is my foundation. The
Yeah.
second thing is that we are not enough, but Jesus is. God is. His grace is sufficient for us. Write the vision down. God has written a redemption story for every single thing that happened in my life. I prayed for the boyfriend that broke my arm, and he is now born again.
Wow.
And he has found Christ, So there's a redemption story for every single thing that happens in our life. It doesn't end there. And I just say, look at what's within your hands. Sometimes we can't control somebody else's bad behavior. The fact that everybody thinks it's okay, I can't control that. But what I can control is who's in my inner circle. What am I feeding myself? What am I confessing over my life?
What am I
Because there was a time
confessing?
when I
Sure.
felt in the deepest of my grief with Jose, the enemy so assailed me that I thought it's better for me and my children to rather be dead. And I was like, what? And I didn't feel like saying it, Shirlyn, but I would start saying confessions. I will live and not die. I'm the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. I will succeed and not fail. I
Yeah.
am the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. I would start making these positive affirmations. And there are others that are online that you can speak over yourself and your children. You know, at SAB, when I got those 3 promotions, it was a favor declaration I used to say every single day. Those things are within your hand. And just reach out to somebody. You never know, who can help.
Yeah.
Not
True.
everybody can all the time. Not everybody can, but God will lead you to the right person that can.
That's right. Thank you so much, Bianca. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, and it was really good chatting with you. All the best in everything that you have coming to you, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Thanks, Shirlyn.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
This was Shirlyn Gray with the Brighter podcast.